thanks for being here. Let me quickly set the context for the panel and invite the panelists to give their thoughts. So as all of us know, the panel topic is innovation diary. How the stalwarts in the industry look at innovation. How do they use innovation for benefit of the organizations and the consumers, and how they basically collaborate and work on this. So with this, as you know, we have 6 eminent panelists representing a large bank, mid-size bank, the large insurance company, service solution provider. So we have actually a complete mix. So I don't think we could have had a better panel compared to what we have. So let's try to use that time for about next 40 minutes or so. And what we'll do, we'll have a quick round of questions with the panel, and we'll obviously leave some time for you to also ask the questions, so that whatever you have in your mind, you can ask from the panelist. Yeah. So with this, I'll start. So let me start with Mr. Anand Pejawar, representing SBI Life. So Mr. Pejawar, on the innovation part, I think there is a lot of confusion in the mind of people because everybody defines innovation in their own way, right? For an organization which is not fully automated, not using agility, emerging tech, even a small API call to do certain automation could be an innovation, right? And that helps a farmer or that helps a consumer to do a certain set of activity, right? But at the same time, for somebody like SBI, even building the whole platform would not also fall in the category of innovation, right? It may be just the need of the hour, right? So how do you define innovation and for you to set the context for the panel that and why it's so imperative for the for the industry? Yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks Sachin. Thanks for having me on the panel. Yes, I agree with you. There could be n number of interpretations of this word innovation, as many people sitting in this room or outside. I think the way I look at innovation is layman's language, because when we look at innovation, it's basically for the people. Whatever you do, it's finally for the benefit of the customer. And if I look at that point and define innovation, it's any new thought process or any new idea that can be put into practice, which can actually give some positive impact to the stakeholders of that organization, and finally how that boils down to some parameters which you might probably look at, which should be impacted, okay? So it could be as small as you said, that there's some API integration which has happened and how that has helped the common man. Or it could be a complete change of a system, a process, which starts with a small thought process. Today everybody talks of apps. I think you have more number of apps in the mobile than rather people actually using it or even used it once, okay? But if you see the app, if it is not giving you the required kind of result in the first 3 to 4 seconds, you don't use that app. So any innovation is a new idea, but at the same time, it should be implementable. It should be viewed from a user angle, so it should be more user-friendly, and how it can create a new experience at the end of the day for the user. I think that I would define as a thought process for innovation, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Sure, I think, sure.
I'll just add.
Yeah, no, yes.
So obviously, I'll go back to the conversation Mr. Sunil Mehta, chairman of PNB, was having. So the innovation, when we say innovation, it has to be in the area where actually either you are opening an avenue for a new business opportunity for the organization. That is key. Because generally, I'll talk from the technology point of view. Generally, technologists feel कि यार मैंने कोई technology innovation कर दिया है, but then eventually if it doesn't get an ROI or get you something, it doesn't make any sense. So it's important that keeping that goal in mind, that you are you're creating a separate stream of revenue for your organization, or you're creating something different for your customer, wow factors. So those are the factors we should keep in mind when we define the innovation. That was.
No, absolutely, I think. So probably just a quick comment on this. Looks like innovation to me is like a school kid which has to pass multiple exams. So one is the consumer exam, Second is probably the CFO exam of ROI. So obviously innovation does not mean that you have a great idea and you are able to just make something unique out of it. Everything what we call innovation in the business also has to go through its own challenges in terms of acceptance, in terms of viability, in terms of basically making use of things from sustainability perspective. So let me come to Shankar. Shankar, your organization is working quite a lot in building new products, solutions from FSS for the financial service industry, right? I mean, every innovation people talk about it today is coupled with some technology. You know, people are in love with blockchain or AI. I think they are in love with blockchain more than their own family members sometime, right? You know, they spend so much amount talking about it. Even, and same applies to AI, cloud, RPA. I mean, there are so many of things, and people, if you look at the people's LinkedIn or people's profiles, as if they have mastered all of it, right? But there is a lot of hype attached to it also, and it may not be real. So from your perspective, when you are building solutions for the future, which are going to be innovative solutions to collaborate with the financial service industry, how do you choose some of the technology? Because market is so much cluttered, right? And you are making investment in that technology ahead of time, because that investment, what you are making today, has to deliver results to your clients as well as to your organization. So how do you arrive at that whatever is this clutter in the market about innovation using the emerging technologies? How do you choose that, the base for that? Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Sachin. I would say that, I think today morning there was a example given of a Hindu family where, multiple generations of technologies, coexist together. I think it happens in a bank, so we are like a B2B service provider, so we couldn't be very different from, what a bank uses. So we are also, though what you're saying about innovation, you always want to hear about, only blockchains or AI. I mean, definitely they're topical, but then we also have to give a life to some of the, solutions which are already running with the multiple banks and some of the largest banks in the country. So you have to give continuity to many of those solutions, and that's also a challenge. So if you see, we are actually operating in a wide range of technologies, right? From a third-gen technology to a fifth-gen technology. So it's actually a wide range, right? And if you really look at, we also, when we innovate on a product, right? The word innovation for us would mean, okay, what our customer needs, right? So in case of, we are a B2B kind of company, where we need to also look over the shoulders of our customers and see what their customers want, which is the consumer, right? So we are also having to keep an eye on what the consumer is looking at. So some of the things like if mobility is getting, very popular, so we cannot have a solution which doesn't include mobility, for instance, because our bank would want something for their customers. So this is how we look at. And I think the topic for this panel was actually selecting and implementing technology. So I will use the word selecting, or I would play on the word selecting. But I think that is where the challenge lies in a company like ours. And so there are two aspects of packaging it all together. One is trying to make our products richer and innovative in terms of features. So that is one type of innovation which our product team keeps doing, right? But if you look at what my team is tasked, and along with my product teams, is to look at how to employ some of these new technologies which will make things better, faster, cheaper for our clients. Because as you see, in the payments world, though the volumes are increasing, the costs, the price is decimating. So how do we bring a balance of bringing those kind of innovations which will allow us to serve our customers better, right? So if you're giving a service, we are looking at how do we consume technology, say like AI or RPA, so that we are better equipped to serve our customers. We are able to meet the turnaround times. We are able to meet our SLAs better, right? In terms of product, of course, we are making a big shift. That is, we have been waiting for a while, also watching how the technologies are maturing, because we also want to be in the leading edge, but not in the bleeding edge, because we serve banks and that's and fintechs, and that is the reason why we are now making a big shift to the cloud, for instance, and we are looking at both the existing applications running on the cloud, plus we are also trying to go cloud native, which I think is a huge initiative that we have undertaken, which will go on for the next 18 months, where we are actually transforming, right, many of our solutions into a microservice, which will become amenable to running it on a cloud, a multi-cloud, and or a hybrid cloud, and as well as be open to the API banking kind of environment, right, where we will be asked to respond to multiple players in the ecosystem, at the same time keeping InfoSec in mind. So this is the challenge that we are facing, and these are some of the technologies that we are currently looking at seriously.
Yeah. Thank you, Shankar. Thank you. I think that's quite insightful from solution provider point of view. So quick question to you, Prasanna. First of all, your organization has done innovation by creating innovation carnivals, right? So that itself is an innovation, that you are getting together and bringing the ecosystem and trying to see that what kind of use cases can come out. So can you talk about this, what kind of, challenges you face while you have this kind of innovation programs running in the bank like DCB, and what kind of strategies you actually follow to overcome them? So maybe 3-4 points from you about going about them, yeah.
Yeah, I think very good questions. And first of all, thank you, ETBFSI, for inviting me here and talk about innovation. So very good question. And innovation, the way we have started as a bank, we started at that time when we were we said that we have done a lot on digital, but digital is a kind of a journey. Similarly, innovation is also kind of a journey. When we started, we thought bringing on 1 or 2 innovations like Aadhaar-enabled ATM for a bank, yeah, we are there as an innovator. But when you look at a complete ecosystem where my consumer is moving, and at this era of a 220 or 2017 when we started, there were around 5 or 6 different type of generations in front of us as a banking partner to all the customers. And every customer has its need, right? Different need. Now coming back, let's say I'm starting some hackathon or innovation program around some 2-3 themes. When we started that, we started sensing a lot of challenges. So very first challenge is that these startups are very agile. They expect everything there and there itself. They want this API platform there and there itself. Immediately they have several number of questions. What will happen on regulation side? Is this my idea really work or not? So on the regulation side also they have a lot of support which has to be supported by mentor ecosystems. Apart from that, they come up with many other questions like what is the business sustenance models? Are you going to provide some investment, or are we gonna get support from any of the investor pool which you have? So we have seen all these things immediately in the first 3 months, and I would say we have drafted a strategy which concentrates on 5 different pillars. Okay, first pillar is like do as a bank we have that much strength on people governance who can understand what is meant by innovation and what is that we need to innovate as a bank. Or we gonna innovate everything just like I will do a WhatsApp banking and whether my SME customer does it need or not. Or am I gonna come up with an AR/VR based branch ahead of the time? So we have drafted some of the use cases which is relevant to the bank's business benefit. As Anup sir has rightly pointed out, it has to be driven by business. So those were like some of the 45 business statements which we have crafted out. So having a repository of use cases very much important for every organization, rather country also, what is they want to innovate for a organization country level. So once we do that, what is that architecture, what is that platform, or which are those processes we want to innovate? We can certainly do innovation on all the processes, but we will sit on huge budget, right? So, or a small budget. Based upon your budget, you have to prioritize those processes. See, for example, customer onboarding could be the very good use case for all the banks, or for us also, or giving a very good insight for that SME so that he brings his business from level 1 to level 2. So those priority based or budget based, you have to draft those priorities and those processes we have to innovate. Third thing, technology angle. Are we on a cloud? Do you have that API platform? Do you have that open banking platform? Do you have that portal which will help fintechs to onboard themselves and test their prototypes themselves? If you don't have it, then it's a lot of manual efforts. For onboarding every fintech, it will take 20 to 30 days. I don't have that much time, right? I have to be ahead of the others. I have to collaborate with all the other ecosystems, government, this and that. Then fourth angle is regulation support. If somebody comes and says, I want to do a P2P based, blockchain based stuff, which will not be relevant in the Indian ecosystem. So what regulation is saying all about? So those guidelines, readiness for fintechs, when they come up on board on any of the hackathons, we handhold them on there and there itself. Okay. These are all things are there. And finally, what innovations I am bringing on, who is my internal customer, who is my external customers, how they will that adopt. So I think these challenges are really has to be taken care by any of the organization while driving their innovation agenda. Ultimately, do very small things. Innovation is all about connecting dots. You may bring a very good app like a digital bank or digital branch. It will take 6 to 1.5 years to implement.
True.
But customer is gonna ready or not? They're not. So
Sure.
bring small innovations, build on your stories,
Yeah.
and that story will help to bring on next level. One ultimate thing which we have done is that bringing in internal innovations also. So supporting ideas given by employees, so that we have.
So, Prasanna, I'll come back to you. I think this, maybe I know that a lot of work is happening. Let me come back to you.
Right.
Yeah.
As a innovation head or a chief innovation, I'll bring on lot of startups, fintechs to bring on.
Sure.
But if my internal team is not having that bandwidth to do that,
Yeah.
that culture I need to do it from scratch. I need to create innovation as a KRA, right? So those are the bottom level challenges. Although we can bring a lot of innovations, but adoption is also another threat to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll come back to you. So, Amit, you are representing the largest bank on the planet as far as the number of customers are concerned. Am I correct? Right. It's like humongous. You have some 450 million customers. Am I correct? Has it increased to 460 now?
Right.
Okay. So practically you have almost like a 40% of India or 35% of India is your customer, right? So I know the SBI has been really pushing the agenda of innovation very, very aggressively in the last couple of years. But I think it would be really good to hear from you that what kind of digital products have been sort of brought out, or what kind of philosophy SBI is following as far as using the technology, using the customer experience, and bringing together technologies to basically deliver that kind of digital products. So maybe some thoughts from you on this?
Right, Sachin, and State Bank of India, we have got a very simple thought process when it comes for innovation, what we call as a 3I. Now, the first I is inclusiveness. So if you are going to have an innovation product built in, so we would have all inclusive. So that's what we have done on YONO as a platform. So if you are using YONO, you can use it for our banking needs. You can use it for our JVs also, the mutual fund, life insurance, general insurance. The second thing what we look as the second I is the inclusiveness, which means how well people would like to try that kind of a thing. Just to give you an example, the clock which I am wearing right now, it's a wearable, right? So you can do a payment. It's a tap and pay. It's not available through any other bank, right? So this is something which we have launched. The third I, what we look at, is to look it from the context of India itself. So that's why we have launched YONO Cash itself. Now, YONO Cash is a feature which gives you an option of withdrawing cash even when you do not have a debit card, right? So people who are Uber drivers, they do not share the PIN with anybody, right? So they can use YONO as an app. They can call their home and tell, this is the PIN number which you go, and it's for one time only, right? So you do it, and that way we are dealing with innovation. And there are a lot more things what we are planning for future, but this 3I principle remains the same itself.
Perfect, Amit. No, I think that's very wonderful. So I would like to have a watch from SBI.
It's available on an online marketplace. So YONO have got an option of online marketplace. You can go and buy it from over there.
Okay.
And we have subsidized it also. So this we have done along with Titan. So you have got a good brand also with you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you. So Nitin, coming to you and taking the same thought, SBI being the largest player, talking about 3I, inclusiveness, Edelweiss being a more younger company, serving the different kind of clientele. How do you align your business and technology together? What kind of use cases you look at when you are talking about innovation, and how you are able to basically drive that across your customer segments?
Yeah, sure. So the way I look at innovation, and I think one of the most difficult challenges we face is with respect to alignment of business. So there are a couple of things that are very, very important. First of all, we divide the innovation into something called incremental and transformational. The incremental innovation has always been there. If you can't do incremental innovation and show value to the business, they'll never be aligned to you on a transformational. So this is what we call as, quick wins. And those quick wins have to be continuous. So that's one very important point while aligning to the business. Second, innovation for a lot of times has been looked at as a right brain problem, convert into left brain problem, right? It's about we'll do this better, we'll do this faster, but now if you convert into more left brain problem in terms of objective delivery and define a goal, that works. So what we've done is basically divided into 3 goals. So whenever you come up with an innovation or talking to business about innovation, you say whether it impacts customer, that's one bucket, whether it impacts process, that's your second bucket, and whether it's a social impact, right, which can impact environment at large or society at large. Once you bucket that, so let's just take an example of a customer. If you're saying, I am launching a mobile app, have you been able to translate that into an objective saying, is my cost of acquisition or cost per customer acquisition going down? Is it my cost queries per customer going down? Support tickets going down? So just convert them into a left-brain problem. And that's a long exercise. It doesn't come easily. People will be defensive, but that's where people part of the innovation is very important. I think once you convert into a left-brain problem, it becomes easy. And I want to take one thing from Prasanna, and this is what we learned and experienced last year very well, which is, innovation does not require budget when you have converted the right brain into left brain problem. Innovation saves money for you, right? Once you have reached there, the innovation cycle becomes very, very easy. So 3 things, right? Incremental transformation, convert the right brain problem to left brain problem, and the secondly, show it in terms of the budget, in terms of either the top line or a bottom line. If you convert these 2, the alignment gets very easy. So last year, we were able to drive a lot of rapid innovations, whether it comes from the perspective of our networks or our cloud computing or implementing AI methodology. But we did not start our innovation until we had a matrix to say what it will solve and measure it. The first 2 were the difficult ones, but when people realized the success of first 2 and they were able to implement, I think the train just went rocking. So that was our methodology.
Sure. Thank you, Nitin. So, Anup, my apologies coming last to you, but I will give you the most loaded question. Everyone, the other panelists talked about that they are doing different things, right? They are launching different products, very innovative concepts coming out, 3I concept from basically SBI, Innovation Carnival from DCB, and then we have also the concept of basically what is incremental, what is transformation. Now, as a CIO who has done a lot of innovative products, and I know Yes Bank has been on the forefront of a lot of innovations, which has been done much ahead of time, how do you see that all this can be institutionalized? What kind of strategies CIOs can adopt? Because see, if innovation is happening in pockets in the organization, naturally it does not become institutionalized, and you are not able to reap the benefits. So as a CIO of the organization who has been in the forefront of this, how you think it can all be brought together and pushed together as an organization agenda?
So first of all, innovation is at Yes Bank is not considered as a squatting right or a privilege right for selected people, and we create a group and they will think innovation. That's not there. Innovation is in the DNA of Yes Banker from top down, from board downward. That's the mandate comes in. Second, it is not only restricted to technology, it is across the bank. It's a business units who comes up with the problem statements. It's the product team which comes up with it's an operation teams which comes up with some unique thing. And fortunately for me, but one thing is common at Yes Bank, that those innovation ultimately culminate and the execution is in the technology. Having said that, I have my team, which is business aligned teams, who are also subjected to lots of innovative ideas, and they actually work with the business, come up with a solution, and deliver it. So that's first thing, that we have this across the Yes Bankers 24,000 rather than having a selected group. The second thing at Yes Bank, two things which we make sure is that we have the right attitude. When I say right attitude, is to accept those innovative ideas and either to kill it then and there, this is not going to work, or take it ahead on that. So that attitude and environment is there to look at it. The second thing is also we have an appetite wherein we do fail. We do fail significantly as well, and we have done those in the past, and we will continue to do that. Because once you have that fear out of you that you are going to fail, that's perfectly fine. You go ahead and do it. So that has been the key, I would say, base principle or a foundation for at Yes Bank, and that has helped us to do lots of innovation. And we pick up the challenges. We pick up the challenges from various people. We hear in the industry, I remember our Chief Digital Officer, Ritesh Pai, when he had met up with Mr. Hota, who was an NPCI CEO, and he had a challenge at that point in time that the feature phone users are not able to avail mobile banking services, and they are not able to avail ATMs services. That was a challenge given to us at that point in time. And we looked at, and at the same time, all the telecom companies were charging 101 rupees 50 paisa per transaction, and that was too huge a cost. So cost was a challenge, and giving mobile experience to the feature phone people. So that was a challenge given to us, and we picked up the challenge. We did lots of research around the globe. We came up with the SIM sleeve. SIM Se Pay is the product which we sell to all our cooperative banks. So we have more than 200 cooperative banks for whom we are the bankers, and their customers use this solution for their mobile transaction. So that was one thing different. At the same time, maybe since we are doing glass, I think it's worth mentioning at this point in time, while lots of banks have done, I know FSS has done a solution for voice banking. I was just talking to a few of them yesterday. Having said that, that's an area where innovation is needed also significantly if you want to get into the lifestyle banking on that. But it has its own inherent challenges in terms of the security and other parameters. So what at Yes Bank, that was a challenge which we picked up for our businesses, that how do we give a wow factor to the customers in terms of the conversational banking without compromising on the security. At the same time, how do we give an artificial intelligence and a machine learning outcome to the customers on that. So we started that journey, I wouldn't say late, it is just 2.5 months back we started that journey, and we were able to integrate artificial intelligence, crypto digital identity, as well as conversational banking into a product. Now it is available, it will be launched on pretty soon for all customers. Now, what is the uniqueness in that? The uniqueness in that, what we feel we are bringing onto a table is it has a analytics built in it. When I say analytics, so tomorrow if I say pay my driver's salary, whereas driver is not even defined as a beneficiary, it has to search my Hadoop and say, okay, on this date you are paying to this person and probably he's your driver. Or there is some narration you mentioned, it will tell you back in the voice, okay, is this a person? If you say yes, and you pay. And you pay with crypto digital identity as a second factor authentication, you work it out. So that's, we have built in that. So you have an artificial intelligence, you have crypto digital security, and you have a wow factor of having conversational banking. So when you say strategy at Yes Bank, I would say that's the core, that it's a DNA, that everybody has to think innovative in terms of bringing it out. I don't know how many of you know that OTP in the banking was introduced by Yes Bank in 2004. We're the first one to implement OTP. So that's been the DNA since then, which we continue across.
Thank you, Arup. No, I think that was wonderful. So I know that we had a very intense discussion and a lot of thoughts have come out. In fact, I've noted down and I'll summarize it. But now that because we have very little time, the clock is showing me only few minutes. Maybe what I could do is that just 30 seconds, each one of the panelists, if they can talk about top 3 innovations they have seen in the industry. It may be done by them, their own organization, it may be done by someone else, it doesn't matter. But at least let the audience know that what panel here thinks that are the great innovations. If you don't think 3 are right number, it could be 1 is good enough, right? So Prasanna, from you, whatever comes to your mind as far as financial services is concerned, what are the top innovation you think has been done?
If you see the customer evolution since last 10 years, I think mobility is one of the biggest innovation which has happened, and top of that we have seen almost all innovations are happening. Wherein with the rise of Android and iOS, we can't imagine your innovations without any of those gadgets. Other innovations we'll see in the future a lot on how do we communicate with your interfaces. Earlier we used to communicate with a keyboard or a mouse, and we were not happy with that, so we went on to touch or other type of phones. So all of a sudden we will have all the conversational based interfaces. Either it could be your conversational bot or phone, or your gadgets like car or IoT devices will talk to your instructions.
Yeah.
So these are the innovations some of the foreign banks are adopting, so that you talk to your refrigerator will follow all the instructions provided, all APIs, and underneath backend is really working well, and it's all secure. And a third innovation which I have seen recently, which almost all banks, UPI is a very good innovation, and we are seeing almost all payment gadgets, payment instruments, mobile applications are all following that way. So I think that's the biggest innovation which we have seen as a country in the last 3 years. That's what I've seen.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. In fact, I'm looking for an innovation which can help me give instruction and get my sons to do their homework. You know, that innovation is still awaited. So I hope with this voice instruction innovation, what you're talking about.
So I'll just to add on, so the current generation, which is now just growing up, 2-3 years old guys, they haven't seen the keyboards and mouse, or they haven't seen how do you really type, right? They will have that interface that they will always talk or touch. Even if they read magazines or a paper, they would like to really touch and see what's going to happen there on the newspaper. That's the wave of communication tomorrow. So next wave could be on IoT plus AR VR. Because that's how we see mobile phones were not existing 95 or below that for ordinary people, and it all become traditional things right now. Maybe after 10 years, 20 years, God knows what's going to happen. But as an innovator, we need to ready for such
Shankar, from your point of view, anything done or futuristic, no problem. 2 to 3, crisp.
I think as I just mentioned that we you know don't sell technology for technology's sake. How we promote solutions for our customers. So we always look from a solution angle, and that's why we are innovating from 3 angles, which is a product innovation, we do process innovation, and business model innovation. So we work on all these 3 fronts. Okay, and if you look at a couple of 2-3 products worthy of mention, one of them you would see it in the stall itself, like we put this toggle, which is something we had, kind of built around, 18 to 24 months back. But now it's become a very useful product because the regulation has come where you will be able to, change your limits, etc. Right? So you can decide, when and what or how to use your own, product or a credit card or debit card, for instance. So those are the kind of innovations, that we roll out. Plus, we have things like voice banking, as Anup just now mentioned, right? And also, Petro Money is another of the innovation that we have done, where you're able to do your banking services when you go into a petrol pump. So that's also, I think, one of the cutting-edge innovation that we have worked with Catholic Syrian Bank to achieve that. So
okay, great. Mr. Pejawar?
In life insurance, I think we have done 3 innovations. First is everybody knows that buying life insurance was a much cumbersome process. So we have invented something called paperless, penless issuance of policy. So starting from the sourcing till issuance of the policy, it's completely paperless, penless. That's one part of it. The second part we looked at is when we were thrown a challenge by our parent SBI, when they came up with YONO, that how can you have a policy in just 3 clicks. The challenge thrown to SBI Life was, I don't want a 4th click. And the COI, which is the certificate of insurance, has to be delivered to the customer instantaneously the moment the payment is made. And we were very successful that we are now on the YONO platform, where exactly just 3 clicks the customer gives. And depending on your age and the kind of relationship you have with the bank, you can go up to 20 lakhs of insurance cover. And the most important, again, I come back saying that innovation, the best of the innovation is only when there is a pain point or a challenge, as Anup said. The biggest challenge all the insurers face is when the customer to whom you're paying annuities have to give you a live certificate. The person is as it is old, sometimes he is 85, 90 years, he's not keeping well, not in a position to move around, and that's the time when you have a problem. So there we came out with something called an ECOE, which is basically a mobile-based application. Okay. Just send a bit.ly link, it's not even an application. So just a bit.ly link, he clicks it, he gives his consent, he does a exactly 10 seconds video, and that comes to the company. 1 copy goes to him, which has the latitude, longitude, date, and time, so we know that this person is alive. Yeah. He did not even move out of his house, and the annuities keep on paying. So these are some of the innovations that we have done in the recent past.
Perfect. Amit?
Right. So what we look at is how the market is going to change and what kind of innovations are already there. So SBI looks at, currently you can have pay-per-view and pay-per-use. And there are multiple, different touch points. So currently you are paying to cycle also, right? If you want to do a cycling, then you are doing it. And what we are looking at, all these touch point of people who have identified these as a service point, we want to build it into our digital platform. So there are cycling companies, you are already using Uber, you are already ordering your food from Big Basket and all. Those are pay-per-use and pay-per-view use cases, and these are so many of them, and they are going to keep on happening as we go forward, and we are very excited to get them integrated, and we are very open to work with all the startups within the country. So if you are a startup, we are ready to work with you. If you have got a very innovative idea, you are most welcome to come and speak to me. We'll see to it.
Perfect, Amit. Very nice. So, Anup, quick.
So I won't talk about the innovation, but I want to have one innovation which I've been working for last 2 years is to ensure that each one sitting in this room and every Indian citizen should have a crypto digital identity. That should be the only authentication and authorization mechanism across the country, including when you do your ballot on that. So that's the one which I am envisaging. Having said that, the best innovation, I spend 4 hours a day in a car. Netflix, Prime, and WhatsApp are the best innovations, which keeps me busy for those 4 hours.
Fantastic. Nitin?
Yeah, I'll just do a quick, I think, which have been our most impactful. I think identity was to begin with, the Aadhaar, the digital identity. I think that was the most impactful. UPI, as Prasanna talked about. I think two ones which I'm looking at forward in future, I think 5G is going to be a big impact. I don't think we've all imagined the impact of 5G as of now, but I think it will change our lives in terms of how businesses and systems interact with each other. And the second, which we are all using right now, it's how the machine learning will become a common man's tool. The cognitive ability, the machine learning, it's not just the ability of Alexa and Google Home to understand you, but it's those services, how easily now you can integrate in your products without writing or doing a 5-year research. I think that's one of the biggest impactful research, I would say, or availability of tools in the hands of any user to be able to roll out solutions like a chatbot with Arun talked about. I think that's been a very large impact.
Perfect. Great. So I think a lot of thoughts from panelists. I know we have finished our time, but just quick 1 or 2 questions, if there are still in your mind. Happy to take them to complete the sort of 360-degree view of the panel. If there are not, I'll just summarize the panel discussion and then we can move to the next agenda. So I think mics are around. A quick question, please.
Can you have some thought on UPI, most disadvantaged part of UPI? Can you just explain? Because we are putting a mobile number also. Is there any thread in that, or how it will be a disadvantage for others?
So UPI as an ecosystem is the best ecosystem what India has produced. So it's like hordes of country has been coming to India and trying to understand, because no other country have got a centralized kind of regulator through which all other banks are associated and they can do a payment. It's a very stable system. It has grown by leaps and bounds. SBI contribute to the maximum number of transactions. So it's, I believe, last I checked, it was doing almost like 800 million transactions per month itself. So that is going to, and the biggest advantage of UPI, it's a 3-click. So this has become a norm itself, that any transaction which cannot be completed in 3 clicks, that's not been taken good by the people itself.
Sure. I think we are good to go. So just let me summarize in 30 seconds. Couple of points, what was brought out by the panelists. Very, very wonderful. So Nitin talked about incremental transformational innovation. Very solid concept. Amit talked about basically 3I concept of SBI. Anup talked about innovation, how everyone needs to be involved in that. It's not just that the people who are supposed to be just assigned to do innovation. Everyone in the organization is supposed to be part of that. Then Mr. Pejawar talked about a lot of innovative stuff happening on, the inclusion perspective or the 3-click concept related to basically, having people or even from a, certificate of basically being alive is one of the key part of the journey of basically insurance. And then we have, Shankar talked about a lot of innovation, technology from cloud, DevOps, etc. perspective. And Prasanna obviously talked about quite a bit in different concepts, and also the innovation which is driven by the people from within, and they need to be convinced about how the innovation has to be driven, right? So thank you all of you for being a very patient listener and supporting this panel, and thanks to all the eminent panelists for spending time and coming over here to share their pulse of wisdom. Thank you ETCIO for helping the cause and driving the digital and technology innovation by having these programs. Thank you so much.